Hi, I'm Paul Roberts, and this is Conscious Counseling 101. And I'm set up with this crazy background because I'm in my bat cave right now. I'm a hobbyist that makes costumes. And I was just speaking to my friends and comrades that also do the same types of things. And I was helping another person that had asked for something today. And I thought, well, I'm already set up. Let me do this in turn in the order I received. And now I'll do your thing that you want to have talked to, but I'm just explaining the background here. Okay. So I'm going to read this letter. It's a long one. Maybe I'll skip through. I don't know. So I'll just try to summarize it. Okay. You had a baby. You had complications afterwards. Took out a loan, the medical expenses, and now you're on the fringes of being maybe out on the street and you don't know what else you can do. Maybe skipping meals, not having everything you have to have, but making sure that the wife does so that she can make sure she breastfeeds the baby and everything is as good as it can be. So I could read the rest of the letter, but it basically just says, your kindness and generosity would mean the world to me and my family if you or anyone you know can offer support or guidance. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Okay, well, I answered him already and I said I'm going to make a video for you. But basically, I said this scenario that you're in is common, far too common, and getting more common all the time. And it's true. So let me start off by talking to you about my life, because I've been in the similar circumstances. I've been married 35 years. I have 2 children. I'm an artist and don't make a lot of money. And I've lived very successfully with what I do have the ability to do. And the world's changed so much that anything I tell you about here, about what I did, might not have helped you anyway. And you might not even have been capable of it. And it's a different world today. So we'll address where you're at and what you can do. But let's first address what I did. We knew we didn't have any money. We couldn't have health insurance. We said, well, we're young. Let's go to the YMCA and let's work out. At least our bodies, if we don't get in an accident, will be strong. And we did that for a while. But when it came time to deciding whether to have children or not, it was 10 years into our marriage, which was God-centered and Jesus-centered. Okay, so I want you to know I'm coming from a place where I believe that we're doing this for larger than us. I didn't ask you about what your convictions were, but oh my gosh, bringing another life into this world is the largest responsibility you'll ever take on yourself, even if you're 100% conscious of it like I was. What I did was rationalize that an all-powerful God would have held me accountable for every decision I would have made, even if I didn't have that child. If we're in his care, in his omnipotent power, beyond what we can even fathom, of course that makes sense. So why not have the child and show with every fiber of our being that I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and raise them according to the will that God, that we can't even see or even prove exists, would want. So I did. So one of the things that we did, and my wife, she's a good detail-oriented person. She makes sure that I'm backed up. I'm a broad concept guy, and she's a detailed person. Together, we should be the perfect mesh. Well, in this particular case, we were. We took out just a short-term policy of health insurance for the time period that we thought we would have the child in case we had troubles. We were covered. You weren't. You did the noble thing and took out a loan. And this is what's causing you the problem. You paid for the systems that serve us all without any insurance. And that's good, and I commend you. You don't deserve to fall, but you still may. Because even though society, especially today, wants everybody to have the babies, they don't give them the ability to do it, and they don't care once they're here. It's amazing. It's all to win political battles. Nobody really knows whether we're supposed to save these babies. Nobody really knows what happens to their soul. Nobody even knows that there's a God, and yet somehow those who are in power want to believe, some of them do, that we should be telling everybody else what to believe and do. I can't prove that that's what we should be doing. All I can do is say, I wouldn't want to do it my own way, my own self. We had the second child, was older. Like I said, we waited 10 years already for the first one. And I realized that there was a 1 in 80% chance that we could have a Down syndrome child based on our... No, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. Let me restate this. We were older, and we realized the older you get, the more chance you could have a Down syndrome baby. Like I mentioned, we're artists without a lot of money. And we said, we can't possibly, this is after the pregnancy of our second child, we can't possibly fathom how we could deal with those expenses and difficulties. We could barely make it as it is. And there was this test you could do to find out whether or not it is a Down syndrome. And I guess you could choose to abort if you want to. This is way early in the pregnancy. And I said, no, we don't need to have the test. Because the test said there was a chance that you could harm the baby. The needle or whatever went in the wrong place or whatever. I said, you know what? We're going to see this to the end, regardless of what it does to us. Even if we have a Down syndrome child and we don't know how we could possibly do it, we're going to see it through to the end because we need to do what is right. And so we said, we're not having that test. We're going to go into this future unknowing and accept whatever might be dealt to us. Well, it turned out everything was okay. In your case, it wasn't, and you didn't have the insurance, made it hard. Oh my goodness. I often sit and talk to my wife and I say, why are we able to make it with as little money as we make? Why? Because we take the David Ramsey approach. Before that, there was a person called Bruce Williams. And what we do is we pay ourselves first. We eat rice and beans. We make sure that we don't waste money. If we're doing something that might appear to someone else, like taking a trip or something like that, as a waste of money, it's not. It's the way we pay for life. We need to have experiences. When you bring this child up, I hope you don't just take him to the park or just have him inside the house, but if that's all you can afford, that's okay. Give him your undying attention. And maybe some good things will come out of it. But I needed to have a full conscious understanding, just like this is called Conscious Counseling 101, of my children. And the only way they can have a full conscious understanding is to give everything that God's ever laid on your heart and to make sure they receive that and show them everything you can afford to show them in the world and make sure they receive that. And life's getting hard for all of us right now. The inflation's through the roof. We had the supply problems in the COVID, and it sent ripples all through the economies. And everybody's go chasing political ends as to what they need to be running after. They're not concerned about you, okay? Not even Newsom is concerned about you. Even though I voted for him, he's using the middle class as a shock absorber. And I think that's wrong. The poor are suffering. The rich doesn't really matter. They're getting a get out of jail free card. But the middle class is shrinking and they're starting to have a difficult time too. And you say, what can we do to help you? Okay? You already have two of the things that you need. One, you have the diligence and the honor to do what's right. And when you didn't have insurance, to pay for it. And two, you have the ability to realize that you're willing to take on jobs that might not be ideal, that can give you enough to carve out the meekest existence and keep a roof over your head. But you still say that you're not able to be sure that you can keep that roof over your head. I shudder to think that we live in a world where if you don't work hard and your wife doesn't take care of the child, that you can't create some type of meaningful existence sheltered on your own accord. But we have safety nets. They're not good ones, but I'd take them in a second. If you do find yourself out there, a shelter will give you a chance and some resources to find another way. And if you are willing to work and be honorable and diligent, even in the difficulties it'll bring, the gains you'll make by being that person and showing your child that you and your wife are that person you can't calculate the value of that. So I want you to think in your darkest hour, in your hitting rock bottom, to always have value in yourself, that you know you can do this, and go and do it no matter what it looks like, and never lose that self-value and that faith. And it's not just faith, blind faith. It's faith because you know what you're emulating is valuable. And you know you're going to do it, and you're all going to commit to it, and it's going to rub off on your child, and they're going to learn valuable lessons. And in turn, think about how many children and adults, those people, might be affected by your child and what you instill in them. The value you have should be placed, and that's where your heart is. Your value should be here with that child and what they can do and with each other, and in the eternal. The value of having a house and what you could accumulate and have an easy life is another value, but there's where your heart will be. I would tell you to use your heart to find that the real things that you're going to have and no one can take away from you is where your heart should be anyway. And that's where your focus should be. So regardless of what happens to you, never lose that train of thought. Never forget to see that that's the most important thing. Now, we had a house and we lost it in the 2008 collapse because Chase Bank had our refinancing locked in, and we were going to make it because we were one of those ones that Obama said, there are people out there that are trying not to strategically default. They're trying to do the right thing. We were trying. And yet the interest rate had a little bump up. And so the loophole that Obama had created for people like us that wanted to be honorable and try would have cost the bank a little tick up of insurance. So they dropped us even though we were locked in, and used an excuse that it was the intern that did it. But sorry, we fired her, but you're stuck. And our whole life was changed for that bank to give that to another person at a slightly higher tick up interest rate. And all the hope we had of achieving what we'd worked so long for, at that point it was almost 20 years, was wiped out. We had to rebuild. And what happened during that time was, while we were rebuilding, I succumbed. I tried to keep my career going, and I do the construction and the renovation of the houses. And I was struck down by ulcers, lost half my blood, and almost died. Went into the hospital for nothing more than to gain a little bit of blood and sit in a bed. Because they said, if you don't take some blood, you probably aren't going to generate your blood fast enough back to save yourself, and your organs will start to shut down. And during the process of lengthy time that it takes to gain the blood that you need to operate at least decently efficiently, you'll probably die. I went ahead and took the blood, but I couldn't afford it. Because the whole idea is we just got trampled upon by the powers and forces of the world and the greed of the banks. You couldn't have insurance for something like that. We thought the insurance was that we were refinancing and we were going to keep on paying. We thought that was the insurance. Our due diligence as stewards of this earth and caring for others, even those that are above us, that are greedy, still paying them, we thought that was. We were robbed of our ability to even do that. I even paid back a loan, a second mortgage loan, that we could have easily just thrown off and said, we're just going to strategically default it. It was being done every single day. Very easy to do. And I said, no, we're going to pay that no matter what. And I did. And that made it hard for us. Just like you said, I'm going to take a loan. I'm going to pay these people back for the medical costs that we had. Well, then when it finally got to where I'm in the hospital receiving just a couple of pints of blood, no big deal. Like, so expensive for that. And when they came in to talk about our bill, he said, I don't know how to pay you. We don't make enough income to qualify for loans. We don't have the money. I'm a good societal support person that does my civic duty and is honorable and doesn't cause problems for society, but actually tries to instill in society all the good things that I could possibly try to instill in them. And you know what? Lo and behold, surprise, 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 they didn't require it of us. You're not in that scenario. But I could be very well talking to you right now from that scenario if they had required it from us. So I can totally relate to you. And what I would say is, I can't save you from oblivion, but I can save you from yourself. Value what is most important. Never lose that. Bond with your wife over it. Teach it to your child. Live every day for it. And remember what Jesus said. Even the Son of Man hath no place to lay his head. Look at the good that he was able to do. I don't know if you're a believer or not. We didn't talk about that. But I'm telling you that the things that he left us, if we study them, they're good. They can do a lot for us. So remember, in your darkest hour, live for honor. It's a gift a person gives to themselves. And that's all I can leave you with, because that's the most valuable thing that you can have. Belief in yourself, honor, and calling out for a higher power to speak to you, and following that all the days of your life, no matter what happens to you. But also your ability to accept jobs that aren't necessarily that great and live in a way that isn't necessarily that great. And even if you found yourself on the street, take the shelter on. A lot of people don't take the shelters on because they want to do their drugs and they want to go live their own way and they want to panhandle and have a couple of booze trips and a couple of whatever. Don't be like that, because if you're not like that, all those people that step aside give room for people like you that would do the honorable good thing, even in those most dark circumstances. And I would suggest to you, if you have this ability to believe in yourself, you might not ever get to those dark circumstances. But if you do get to those dark circumstances, I know that if you can understand what I'm saying to you now, you'll make the right choices even then, and you'll all be better off for it, even if you die in a few years. Because the good that you can do with the smallest amount of faith and the smallest amount of perseverance and love triumphs over anything that this dark and ugly world could possibly do. For man, this may not all be possible, everything that you'd like to see work out. But for God, all things, and I'll add in, that are worth anything are possible. That's the best I can do for you today on this introductory video. I hope that it's enough for you to give you things to think about and to motivate your spirit and your heart and your mind and your love for your family and your hope in the future and in the nature of mankind. There isn't a seemingly enough to go around right now, and people are pulling their hair out thinking, whoever's the next president is going to save us. No, they're not going to save us. Even if you get the one you think you want, there's going to be all kinds of adversity keeping down everything that would be good from coming to you because of the evils of mankind. So what do? You keep peace in your heart, and you make sure you're not a part of those evils of mankind. And whether you live long and prosper and endure, or live short, your life value will be worthy of whatever last breath you take, no matter whether it's only a few weeks from now or you live to ripe old age, and whether or not your child survives or you survive, just by your spirit being emulated by you and everybody that you touch, even me, you've done great, great things. Just remember that. I'll be glad to talk to you more if you'd like. I'm Paul Roberts, and this is Conscious Counseling 101.